Welcome back to the channel. Today we embark on an extraordinary journey through 7 of the most breathtaking natural wonders our planet has to offer, places where nature's artistry reaches its absolute peak. From the dramatic fjords carved by ancient glaciers in New Zealand to the mystical cliffs rising from Ireland's wild Atlantic coast, from the lowest point on Earth where you can float effortlessly in healing waters to the highest peak that touches the sky itself, we're covering it all. We'll journey through Turkey's cotton castle terraces, explore Croatia's cascading turquoise lakes, and witness Norway's majestic waterways that have inspired legends for centuries. These aren't just beautiful places, they're living testaments to the raw power and artistry of geological forces that have been sculpting our world for millions of years. Each destination we'll explore today carries its own unique story, its own cultural significance, and its own incredible history. These are places where nature and humanity have danced together for thousands of years, creating experiences that touch something deep within our souls. Before we jump in, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. You won't want to miss future adventures. And hey, if you're ready to turn these dreams into reality, check out the link in the description below where we've curated the best deals on flights and accommodations for each of these incredible destinations. Now, let's get started. Milford Sound, New Zealand. Nestled in the southwestern corner of New Zealand's South Island, within the stunning Fiordland National Park, Milford Sound is a fjord, yes, technically a fjord, not a sound, that stretches 15 kilometers inland from the Tasman Sea. This magnificent waterway is surrounded by towering peaks that shoot straight up from the water, some reaching heights of over 1,200 meters, creating walls of granite that seem to touch the sky itself. The Maori people have called this region home for centuries, and their connection to this land runs deeper than the fjord itself. According to Maori legend, the demigod Tuti Rakiwanoa carved out the fjords with his mighty adze, creating a landscape so breathtaking that the goddess Hainuaitpo sent the sandflies to keep humans humble, to prevent them from staying forever in paradise. Captain John Groan, a Welsh sealer, was the first European to discover this fjord in 1812, and he named it Milford Haven after his homeland in Wales. However, it wasn't until 1888 that the area gained international attention when Scottish explorer Donald Sutherland and his partner John Mackay became the first Europeans to discover the magnificent Sutherland Falls. For decades, Milford Sound remained virtually inaccessible to tourists until 1954, when the Homer Tunnel, a marvel of engineering that took nearly 20 years to complete, finally connected the fjord to the outside world. Workers blasted through solid rock, often in life-threatening conditions during harsh winters, to create this 5-foot passage through the mountains. Mitre Peak, rising 1,692 meters directly from the water, this iconic pyramid-shaped mountain is one of the most photographed peaks in the entire southern hemisphere. Named after its resemblance to a bishop's mitre, this peak is actually composed of 5 separate summits, all part of the same mountain. What makes Mitre Peak truly extraordinary is its sheer verticality. It's one of the world's tallest coastal mountains, rising dramatically from sea level without any foothills to ease the ascent. When you cruise through Milford Sound, Mitre Peak dominates the landscape, its reflection creating a perfect mirror image on calm days that'll make you question which way is up. Photographers arrive at dawn to capture the peak bathed in golden light, often shrouded in mystical mist that rolls off the Tasman Sea. But Milford Sound isn't just about the peaks. This is one of the wettest places on Earth, receiving an average of 6,813 millimeters of rain annually. That's over 22 feet. This incredible rainfall creates hundreds of temporary waterfalls that cascade down the sheer cliff faces after every storm, creating a spectacle that's different every single time you visit. The permanent waterfalls, like the 155-meter Stirling Falls and the 146-meter Bowen Falls, thunder year-round, their spray creating miniature rainbows in the sunlight. Located in New Zealand's Fiordland National Park, Milford Sound is a 15-kilometer fjord surrounded by peaks over 1,200 meters tall. Rich in Maori culture and legend, it was carved by glaciers and remained largely inaccessible until 1954. The iconic Mitre Peak rises 1,692 meters directly from the water, while over 22 feet of annual rainfall creates hundreds of spectacular waterfalls. This is nature's cathedral, where every element, rock, water, mist, and sky, works in perfect harmony. Cliffs of Moher, Ireland. Welcome to the Cliffs of Moher, or as they're known in Irish Gaelic, Ailton Mhotia, meaning Cliffs of the Ruins or Cliffs of the Fort. Perched on the southwestern edge of the Burren region in County Clare, these magnificent sea cliffs stretch for about 8 kilometers along the coast, rising from the churning Atlantic waters to heights of 214 meters. at their highest point. On a clear day, and let me tell you, clear days are precious here, you can see the Aran Islands, Galway Bay, and even the distant mountains of Connemara painting the horizon. The geography here is nothing short of dramatic. These aren't just cliffs, they're layer upon layer of geological history, predominantly composed of Namurian shale and sandstone, with the oldest rocks dating back approximately 320 million years to the Carboniferous period. What you're looking at when you stand at the edge is the ancient delta of a river that once flowed through a tropical sea. Yes, Ireland was once near the equator. The layers tell stories of ancient river channels, shallow seas, and periodic flooding events that deposited sediment over millions of years, later compressed into the solid rock you see today. The constant battering of Atlantic waves continues to shape these cliffs, eroding them at a rate of about 1 meter every 8 to 10 years. Nature's never finished sculpting her masterpieces. The name itself references the ruins of an old promontory fort called Moher that once stood on Hag's Head, the southernmost point of the cliffs. Local legend speaks of Mal, a sea hag who fell in love with the Irish hero Cú Chulainn. When he rejected her advances, she pursued him along the coast. In his escape, he leapt from rock to rock across the water, but Mal, unable to match his agility, crashed into the cliffs and drowned, thus giving Hag's Head its name. The cliffs have witnessed centuries of Irish history, from ancient Celtic tribes to medieval castles, from the devastating Great Famine that ravaged Ireland in the 1840s to the emergence of modern Irish culture and tourism. For centuries, these cliffs remain known primarily to locals, farmers who grazed their sheep on the clifftop grasslands and fishermen who braved the treacherous waters below. It wasn't until the 19th century that tourists began discovering the raw beauty of this place. Sir Cornelius O'Brien, a local landowner and descendant of Brian Boru, the High King of Ireland, recognized the cliff's potential and built O'Brien's Tower in 1835 as an observation point for Victorian tourists. This round stone tower still stands today, offering panoramic views that'll take whatever breath the Atlantic wind hasn't already stolen from your lungs. Speaking of O'Brien's Tower, this is absolutely the premier destination at the Cliffs of Moher. Standing at the cliff's highest point, this two-story tower rises an additional 214 meters above sea level, giving you a combined elevation of 428 meters above the Atlantic. O'Brien designed it to impress the Victorian ladies he'd bring here, always the showman. The cliffs are also an internationally important bird sanctuary, home to over 30,000 breeding seabirds and 20 different species. From April to July, these cliffs transform into one of Ireland's most significant bird breeding sites. Razorbills, guillemots, kittiwakes, and peregrine falcons all nest in the cliff faces, creating a symphony of calls that competes with the crashing waves below. The weather here is notoriously unpredictable and fierce. This is the Atlantic coast of Ireland, after all. Wind speeds can exceed 100 kilometers per hour, and the cliffs are often shrouded in mist that rolls in off the ocean without warning, creating an ethereal, almost otherworldly atmosphere. Rain is frequent, but here's the thing: dramatic weather makes the Cliffs of Moher even more spectacular. When storm waves crash against the base, sending spray dozens of meters into the air, when lightning illuminates the darkened sky, when shafts of sunlight break through storm clouds to illuminate patches of the ocean, that's when you truly understand the raw, untamed power of nature. Dead Sea. Welcome to the Dead Sea, folks, or as it's known in Hebrew, Yam HaMelech, the Salt Sea, and in Arabic, Al-Bahr al-Mayit, the Dead Sea. Situated in the Jordan Rift Valley, this hypersaline lake is bordered by Jordan to the east and Israel and Palestine to the west. But here's what makes this place absolutely mind-blowing. The Dead Sea's surface is approximately 430.5 meters below sea level, making it the lowest point on Earth's land surface. Its shores represent the lowest elevation on land that isn't covered by ice or water. You're literally standing at the bottom of the world. The Dead Sea is about 50 kilometers long and 15 kilometers wide at its widest point. Though I need to tell you something sobering, it's shrinking. The water level has been dropping at an alarming rate of about 1 meter per year due to water diversion from the Jordan River and mineral extraction. What was once a single body of water is now effectively divided into two basins, a northern and southern section connected by a man-made channel. The lake sits within a tectonic depression formed by the Dead Sea Transform Fault, which runs through the Jordan Rift Valley. This is an active geological zone where the African plate and Arabian plate are slowly moving apart, creating this deep basin that has trapped water and minerals for millions of years. But let's talk about what makes the Dead Sea truly legendary: its salinity. At approximately 34.2% salinity, nearly 10 times saltier than ocean water, the Dead Sea is one of the saltiest bodies of water on Earth. This extreme salinity occurs because the Dead Sea is an endorheic lake, meaning water flows in but never flows out. There's no outlet. The Jordan River and several smaller streams feed fresh water into it, but the only way water leaves is through evaporation. In the scorching desert heat, where temperatures regularly exceed 40 degrees C in summer, water evaporates rapidly, leaving behind all its dissolved minerals, primarily magnesium chloride, sodium chloride, calcium chloride, potassium chloride, and bromide. Over millennia, these minerals have concentrated to levels that make the water so dense that you literally cannot sink. You float effortlessly like a cork. The history of the Dead Sea is as ancient as civilization itself. Evidence suggests that humans have been drawn to this unique place for at least 10,000 years. The ancient Egyptians imported asphalt from the Dead Sea for their mummification process. Yes, chunks of natural asphalt would occasionally float to the surface, released from deposits deep in the lake bed. The Hebrew Bible mentions the Dead Sea numerous times, and the area is linked to the biblical cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, which, according to Scripture, were destroyed by divine fire and brimstone. Whether myth or historical event, these stories have cemented the Dead Sea's place in religious and cultural consciousness. The ancient Greeks and Romans knew the Dead Sea well. Aristotle wrote about its remarkable waters, and the Roman historian Josephus described how even people who couldn't swim would float on its surface. Perhaps most famously, the Dead Sea region is associated with the Dead Sea Scrolls, one of the most significant archaeological discoveries of the 20th century. In 1947, Bedouin shepherds discovered ancient Jewish religious texts in caves at Qumran, just northwest of the Dead Sea. These scrolls, dating from the 3rd century BCE to the 1st century CE, include the oldest known surviving copies of biblical texts and have revolutionized our understanding of ancient Judaism and early Christianity. Ein Bokek, the main resort area on the Israeli shore of the Dead Sea. Ein Bokek has transformed from a simple beach into a sophisticated destination with world-class hotels, spas, and wellness centers. The hotels here understand their unique selling point. They offer direct access to the Dead Sea and spa facilities that utilize authentic Dead Sea minerals and mud. The promenade features restaurants, shops, and entertainment, but let's be honest, the main event is the water itself. The Dead Sea, Earth's lowest land elevation at 430.5 meters below sea level, is a hypersaline lake bordered by Jordan, Israel, and Palestine. With 34.2% salinity, 10 times saltier than ocean water, its density makes you float effortlessly. Ancient history includes connections to biblical stories, Egyptian mummification, and the Dead Sea Scrolls discovered at Qumran. Cleopatra and Herod the Great prized its therapeutic properties. Ain Bokik Resort Area offers access to the mineral-rich waters and famous black mud, both proven beneficial for skin and health conditions. This is nature's spa, a place where geology, history, and wellness converge at Earth's lowest point. Or Mount Everest and the Himalayas. Welcome to Mount Everest and the magnificent Himalayan mountain range, where Earth reaches for the heavens and humanity tests the absolute limits of endurance and ambition. Mount Everest, known as Sagarmatha in Nepali, meaning forehead of the sky, and Chomolungma in Tibetan, meaning mother goddess of the world, stands at a staggering 8,848.86 meters above sea level. Commercial airliners typically fly at around 10,000 meters, meaning Everest's summit pierces almost into the cruising altitude of planes. This is the highest point on Earth's surface, and it's just the crown jewel of the Himalayan range that stretches approximately 2,400 kilometers across 5 countries: Bhutan, China, India, Nepal, and Pakistan. The Himalayas aren't just mountains, they're a geological marvel, the result of one of the most dramatic collisions in Earth's history. About 50 million years ago, the Indian tectonic plate, which had been drifting northward, crashed into the Eurasian plate. Neither plate would yield, so instead of sliding under or over each other, they crumpled upward like a slow-motion car crash, creating the Himalayan mountain range. This process continues today. The Himalayas are still rising at a rate of about 5 millimeters per year as the Indian plate continues its relentless push northward. The forces involved are so immense that they've literally lifted what was once ocean floor to heights where the air is too thin for most humans to survive without supplemental oxygen. The Himalayas form a natural barrier between the Indian subcontinent and the Tibetan plateau, creating distinct climatic zones and ecosystems. To the south, monsoon rains from the Indian Ocean dump incredible amounts of moisture, creating lush, verdant valleys and forests. To the north lies the rain shadow, the high-altitude desert of Tibet, where the mountains block moisture, creating one of the driest places on Earth despite being surrounded by snow. This dramatic difference in just a few dozen kilometers is part of what makes the Himalayas so ecologically diverse and culturally fascinating. In Hinduism, these mountains are considered the abode of gods. Lord Shiva is said to reside at Mount Kailash, one of the most sacred peaks. In Buddhism, the Himalayas are associated with spiritual purity and enlightenment. Many monasteries perch precariously on mountainsides, where monks have meditated for centuries. The Sherpa people, an ethnic group indigenous to the eastern Himalayas, have lived in these mountains for centuries, developing extraordinary high-altitude adaptations and a culture deeply intertwined with the mountains themselves. Their name for Everest, Chomolungma, reflects their reverence. They see the mountain not as a challenge to conquer, but as a sacred presence to honor. The modern history of Everest exploration begins in the early 20th century. British expeditions in the 1920s made the first serious attempts to reach the summit, culminating in the tragic 1924 expedition where George Mallory and Andrew Irvine disappeared high on the mountain. Whether they reached the summit before dying remains one of mountaineering's greatest mysteries. The successful first ascent came on May 29, 1953, when Sir Edmund Hillary from New Zealand and Tenzing Norgay, a Sherpa climber from Nepal, finally stood on the summit, fulfilling a dream that had captured the world's imagination. Their achievement wasn't just athletic, it required meticulous planning, cutting-edge equipment for the time, supplemental oxygen, and the support of hundreds of porters and guides. Since then, Everest has drawn thousands of climbers, becoming both an inspiration and, controversially, a commercial venture. The mountain has claimed over 300 lives, and issues like overcrowding, environmental degradation, and the ethics of guided expeditions continue to spark debate. The death zone, above 8,000 meters, where the oxygen level is only 1/3 of what it is at sea level, can kill even experienced climbers within hours without supplemental oxygen. Frostbite, altitude sickness, avalanches, ice falls, and sudden storms make Everest one of the most dangerous places humans voluntarily venture. Base camp, located at approximately 5,364 meters on the Nepalese side. The Tibetan side base camp sits at 5,150 meters, serves as the staging ground for summit attempts. But for trekkers, it represents the ultimate destination, offering views of Everest and surrounding giants like Lhotse, Nuptse, and Ama Dablam. Mount Everest, Earth's highest peak at 8,848.86 meters, crowns the two 400-kilometer Himalayan range formed by the collision of Indian and Eurasian tectonic plates 50 million years ago. The mountains continue rising 5 millimeters annually. Sacred to Hindus and Buddhists, home to Sherpa culture, Everest was first summited by Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay in 1953. Everest Base Camp, at 5,364 meters, offers accessible trekking through Sherpa villages like Namche Bazaar and Tengboch, culminating in views of Earth's highest peaks. This is where Earth meets sky, where human determination confronts natural limits, and where every step reminds you of your place in the universe. Pamukkale, Turkey. Welcome to Pamukkale, which translates from Turkish as Cotton Castle. And folks, once you see it, you'll understand why. Located in southwestern Turkey, in the Aegean region near the city of Denizli, Pamukkale is a natural phenomenon featuring brilliant white travertine terraces cascading down a hillside, filled with warm, mineral-rich water. From a distance, these terraces shimmer in the sunlight like frozen waterfalls, or, as the name suggests, like cotton fields blanket the mountainside. This isn't just a pretty sight. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, recognized both for its natural beauty and its historical significance. Geologically, what you're witnessing at Pamukkale is the result of thermal springs that have been active for thousands of years. The science is fascinating. Deep underground, water from rainfall and snowmelt percolates through faults in the Earth's crust, gets heated by geothermal energy, and becomes supersaturated with calcium carbonate and other minerals. This heated water, emerging at temperatures around 35 degrees C, then flows to the surface and cascades down the 200-meter-high, 2,700-meter-long hillside. As the water flows and cools, calcium carbonate precipitates out of solution, slowly building up thick deposits of travertine, a sedimentary rock similar to limestone. Over millennia, this process has created a series of stunning crescent-shaped terraced pools, stalactites, and mineral forests, each one a work of art sculpted by water, minerals, and time. Let's dive into the history, because Pamukkale has been drawing people for thousands of years, and not just tourists with cameras. The ancient Greek city of Hierapolis was founded atop these travertine terraces around 190 BCE by Eumenes II, the king of Pergamon. The Greeks, and later, the Romans recognized the therapeutic properties of these mineral waters and built an entire city around them. Hierapolis became one of the most important spa destinations in the ancient world, attracting sick and healthy visitors alike who believed the waters could cure ailments ranging from arthritis to skin diseases to digestive problems. The city flourished for centuries under Roman rule. The Romans, masters of architecture and public bathing culture, constructed elaborate bath complexes, a theater that seated 12,000 people, a sprawling necropolis with over 1,200 tombs, temples, and public buildings. The city became a center of textile production, particularly wool dyeing, taking advantage of the warm waters and mineral properties. Early Christianity also found a home here. The Apostle Philip is believed to have been martyred in Hierapolis in 80 CE, and you can still visit the Martyrium of St. Philip, built in the 5th century on the site where tradition says he was killed. But let's not forget the main attraction, the travertine terraces themselves. Today, access is carefully controlled to preserve the formations. You must remove your shoes and walk barefoot on designated paths through the shallow thermal pools. The water feels pleasantly warm as it flows over your feet. And yes, the claims about beneficial minerals aren't just tourist hype. The calcium, magnesium, and bicarbonate in the water are indeed good for skin and circulation. Located in southwestern Turkey, near Denizli, Pamukkale, Cotton Castle, features brilliant white travertine terraces formed over millennia by calcium carbonate-rich thermal springs flowing down a 200-meter hillside. The ancient city of Hierapolis was founded here around 190 BCE, becoming a major Roman spa destination. Ruins include a 12,000-seat theater, extensive necropolis, temples, and the Martyrium of St. Philip. The Hierapolis Archaeology Museum showcases artifacts spanning millennia, while Cleopatra's Pool offers swimming among submerged Roman columns. Today, carefully controlled access protects the terraces. Visitors walk barefoot through warm thermal pools on designated paths. Conservation efforts have successfully restored the formation's brilliant white color. This is where natural wonder and ancient history merge, where you can literally walk through mineral pools that have attracted humanity for over 2,000 years. Plitvice Lakes National Park, Croatia. Welcome, fellow nature lovers, to what I genuinely believe is one of Europe's most enchanting natural wonders, a place where water becomes art, where forests feel ancient and alive, and where every turn reveals another breathtaking vista. This is Plitvice Lakes National Park, or as it's known in Croatian, Nacionalni Park Plitvička jezera. Located in the mountainous karst region of central Croatia, roughly halfway between Zagreb and Zadar, this spectacular park encompasses 296.85 square kilometers of pristine wilderness. Plitvice Lake sits in a limestone and dolomite karst landscape where water has been working its magic for thousands of years. The park's elevation ranges from 367 meters at the lowest point to 1,280 meters at its highest, creating diverse microclimates and ecosystems. The lakes are divided into two sections: the upper lakes, characterized by larger, shallower lakes surrounded by dense forests, and the lower lakes featuring narrower, more dramatic gorges with the park's tallest waterfall. Here's where the magic happens, as this mineral-rich water flows over rocks, vegetation, and even fallen logs. Microscopic organisms, algae, bacteria, and moss precipitate the dissolved calcium carbonate out of the water, slowly building up travertine deposits. These deposits form natural barriers that grow at a rate of about 1 centimeter per year, constantly reshaping the landscape. Old barriers break down from water pressure and erosion, while new ones form downstream, meaning the park is in constant, slow-motion transformation. The result is a series of stunning turquoise and azure lakes connected by waterfalls ranging from gentle cascades to thundering plumes, with the largest Veliki Slap, big waterfall, plunging 78 meters into the canyon below. The history of Plitvice Lakes is as layered as its geological formations. The area has been inhabited since prehistoric times, with evidence of human settlement dating back to the Stone Age. During the Roman period, a road passed through the region, and throughout the Middle Ages, the area was contested territory between various kingdoms and empires. The modern conservation story begins in 1893 when local hotelier Gustav Schubert founded the Plitvice Lakes Protection Society, recognizing that this natural treasure needed protection from logging and exploitation. However, it wasn't until April 8, 1949, that Plitvice Lakes became Croatia's first national park and one of the oldest in Southeast Europe. This designation came with protection measures that preserved the forests and banned development, allowing nature to thrive relatively undisturbed. In 1979, UNESCO recognized Plitvice Lakes as a World Heritage Site for its outstanding natural beauty and ecological importance. Veliki Slap, the big waterfall. Standing 78 meters tall, this is Croatia's tallest waterfall and arguably the most dramatic sight in the entire park. Fed by the Plitvice stream, which collects water from the upper lakes, Veliki Slap thunders into the Korana River Canyon in a spectacular display of raw power. The surrounding rock faces are covered in moss and ferns, constantly moistened by the spray, creating a lush microclimate even in summer. The approach to Veliki Slap takes you along wooden boardwalks and pathways that wind through the lower lake section. These pathways, over 18 kilometers of them throughout the park, are engineering marvels in themselves, built to float on the water's surface in some sections, allowing you to walk literally on the lakes, mere inches above crystal-clear water where you can see trout swimming below. The boardwalks ensure visitors can explore intimately without damaging the delicate travertine formations and aquatic ecosystems. This 296.85 square kilometer park features 16 terraced lakes connected by waterfalls and cascades, formed by travertine barriers created by calcium carbonate deposition. The park ranges from 367 to 1,280 meters elevation, divided into upper and lower lake sections. Established as Croatia's first national park in 1949 and designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1979, it recovered beautifully from war damage in the 1990s. Veliki Slap, Croatia's tallest waterfall at 78 meters, is the premier attraction. 18 kilometers of wooden boardwalks allow intimate exploration without environmental damage. Watercolors range from azure to emerald green due to minerals and algae. This is nature's water park, a living, evolving landscape where water literally builds the land it flows across. The fjords of Norway. Welcome to the Norwegian fjords, or as they're known in Norwegian, simply fjorder. These aren't just any valleys or waterways. They're some of the most spectacular geological formations on Earth, deep, narrow inlets carved by massive glaciers during the Ice Age, now filled with seawater and surrounded by towering cliffs that shoot straight up from the water like nature's own skyscrapers. Norway's western coast is incised with over 1,000 fjords, creating one of the world's longest and most intricate coastlines. But today, we are focusing on the most magnificent, those in western Norway, particularly around the regions of Fjord Norway. During the Ice Age, which ended roughly 10,000 years ago, massive glaciers, some over 3,000 meters thick, ground their way through Norway's mountainous landscape toward the sea. Unlike rivers that erode valleys into V-shapes, glaciers carve U-shaped valleys with their tremendous weight and abrasive power, gouging deep into the bedrock. When the Ice Age ended and glaciers retreated, sea levels rose, flooding these glacially carved valleys with seawater and creating the fjords we see today. The result is breathtaking, narrow waterways with depths reaching over 1,300 meters below sea level, flanked by cliffs rising 1,400 meters or more above the water, creating a combined relief that can exceed 2,700 meters. That's vertical drama on an almost incomprehensible scale. Some fjords are short and relatively straight, while others twist and turn for over 200 kilometers inland, branching into smaller side fjords called arms. The water in fjords is typically stratified. Fresh water from rivers and melting snow sits atop denser, saltier seawater from the ocean, creating unique ecosystems. Fjord waters are generally calm, protected from ocean waves by narrow entrances and surrounding mountains, creating mirror-like surfaces that perfectly reflect the towering peaks and waterfalls above. The Vikings, those legendary Norse seafarers, explorers, and warriors, grew up in these fjords between the 8th and 11th centuries. The fjords provided natural harbors perfect for building and launching their distinctive longships, vessels that could navigate both deep ocean waters and shallow rivers, allowing Vikings to raid, trade, and explore from North America to the Middle East. The isolated communities nestled in fjord valleys developed distinct dialects, traditions, and ways of life, relying on fishing, sheep farming, and limited agriculture on any flat land they could find. Life was harsh, but fostered resilience, self-reliance, and a deep connection to the sea and mountains. Tourism to Norway's fjords began in the 19th century when wealthy Europeans discovered this dramatic landscape through travel writing and art. The construction of roads, tunnels, and railways made the fjords increasingly accessible, and by the late 20th century, they'd become one of Europe's most sought-after destinations. Today, the Norwegian government carefully balances tourism with environmental protection, managing cruise ship traffic, protecting nesting sites and wildlife, and promoting sustainable tourism practices. Fjord, often considered the most beautiful fjord in the world and a UNESCO World Heritage Site since 2005. This 15-kilometer-long branch of the larger Storfjord features some of the most dramatic scenery you'll encounter anywhere on Earth. Towering cliffs rise up to 1,400 meters on both sides, with abandoned farms clinging impossibly to tiny green ledges hundreds of meters above the water, testaments to the determination of people who once eked out a living in this vertical world. The Seven Sisters Waterfall, or De Siv Sostren, is the most famous. 7 separate streams cascading 250 meters down the fjord wall in elegant white ribbons. Adds to the drama, its mist creating rainbows on sunny days. After heavy rains or during spring snowmelt, dozens of temporary waterfalls appear, transforming the fjord walls into cascading sheets of white water. It's nature's own version of a fireworks display, except it's happening in slow motion across a canvas of rock, water, and sky. The village of Geiranger, sitting at the fjord's innermost point, is small but perfectly situated. From here, you can take cruise excursions through the fjord, the classic experience that allows you to appreciate the scale and drama from water level, cruising past those abandoned farms and beneath waterfalls where the mist drifts across the boat. The fjords of Norway. Norway's western coast features over 1,000 fjords, deep, narrow seawater inlets carved by Ice Age glaciers up to 3,000 meters thick. These U-shaped valleys reach depths of 1,300 plus meters below sea level, flanked by cliffs rising 1,400 plus meters above, creating dramatic relief exceeding 2,700 meters. This is where glaciers wrote poetry in rock and water, where nature's grandest architecture meets human resilience and adventure. We've just completed an extraordinary journey across 7 continents and through landscapes that span from Earth's highest peaks to its lowest point, from ancient fjords carved by ice to terraces built molecule by thermal springs. We've walked through places where humans have lived, worshipped, and dreamed for thousands of years, and we've witnessed the raw, untamed power of natural forces that dwarf our brief existence on this planet. Of all 7 wonders we've explored today, which one called to you most deeply, and more importantly, why? Was it the vertical drama of the Norwegian fjords, the ancient history of the Dead Sea, the spiritual pull of Everest, the crystalline beauty of Plitvice lakes? Your answer might reveal something about yourself, maybe a need for adventure, for peace, for spiritual connection, or for beauty. Drop your answer in the comments and tell me why that place resonates with your soul. If I've inspired you to add even one of these destinations to your bucket list, then please hit that subscribe button and that notification bell. We've got so many more incredible places to explore together, from hidden gems off the beaten path to legendary locations that define our planet's beauty. Join our community of curious, passionate travelers who believe that the world is meant to be explored, not just observed from afar.